On July 10, 2007, Kodansha announced that they would be releasing the American webcomic Mega Tokyo in Japan. In order to promote the series' first Japanese volume, they would be releasing a 30-page preview in Faust, a quarterly literary magazine that featured manga, short stories, and illustrations. It had been running for 4 years in Japan and had already made its way overseas, with versions of the magazine being published in both Taiwan and South Korea. And in the middle of this press release, there was another announcement. In 2008, Faust would be released in English. The English version of Faust would be published by Del Rey Manga. This came about because Mutsumi Miyazaki, Del Rey Manga's director of licensing and acquisitions, decided to reach out to Kodansha. In an interview with About.com, she stated, quote, "I decided to acquire Faust magazine simply because it's a wonderful work of art that I think would also appeal to the young readers in the US who are interested in Japanese pop culture. There are many Japanese manga and novels that have been brought to the US thus far, but there's nothing like Faust in the publishing market in the US today. Faust is unique and is one of a kind." End quote. The English version of the magazine was greenlit as an experimental project between Del Rey and Kodansha, and Del Rey committed to publishing at least 2 volumes. Faust had been given at least partial credit for improving the reputation of light novels in Japan. Trisha Narwani, an editor at Del Rey, thought that Faust had the potential to do something similar in the West and increase the popularity of light novels as a whole. While they could have cherry-picked the most popular stories from previously released Japanese magazines, they decided to include some titles and authors that English readers may not be familiar with. In a statement to Publishers Weekly a few months before their version of Faust was released, she explained that, quote, "So many of the light novels that have appeared in the US so far have had a clear tie to an established property. In the case of Faust, with the exception of the XXX Holic excerpts, these are light novels that are influenced by the sensibility of anime and manga, but are not part of existing stories. It will be interesting to see how fans respond to this original storytelling." End quote. On August 19, 2008, Faust Volume 1 hit store shelves in North America. The more than 400-page book was filled with short stories, essays, interviews, and more. If you turn to page 246, you'd find something interesting. The Garden of Sinners: A View from Above, the first chapter of the light novels written by Kenoku Nasu and illustrated by Takashi Takeuchi. But before the excerpt started, you'd see a short introduction. It briefly covered the history of the Garden of Sinners, discussed its 7-part anime film adaptation, which began airing in Japan at the end of 2007, and introduced readers to Nasu and Takeuchi. And at the very end, they also had an announcement to make. Del Rey Manga would publish the Garden of Sinners in its entirety in 2009 over the course of 2 volumes, mirroring Kodansha's original Japanese release. Anyone who was waiting for a release date or a more formal announcement wouldn't get one. Even after the second and ultimately final volume of Faust was released in June of 2009, there was no news about the Garden of Sinners, and outside of the announcement in Faust's first volume, it doesn't look like Del Rey ever mentioned the series again. Del Rey Manga was shut down in 2010, and as of June 2025, the series has still never been officially released in English. I reached out to several people who were involved with the release of Faust to try to find out more about what happened, but didn't have much luck. However, I did manage to get in contact with someone who worked directly on the Garden of Sinners excerpt. While known for his work in 2D animation today, Paul Oda King Johnson's career definitely didn't start there. In the late aughts, he worked as a freelance translator, and one of the projects that he tackled before switching careers to animation was the Garden of Sinners. He was given the translation materials for the project in February of 2008, but the only thing that he ever translated was what was released in the first volume of Faust. And after translating the first chapter, he was never contacted about the translation again. In other words, it looks like the one chapter of the novels that was officially released was also the only chapter that was translated. A fairly common explanation for why the series was never released was because Del Rey Manga shut down before they got the chance to, but it's also possible that they just decided to kill the project shortly after it was announced.